Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! This happened yesterday and we are still reeling from what occurred. I never thought I'd see a vicious Karen like her, and never in such a way that it scared the ones I care for the most. In a couple weeks, it'll be our oldest child's 6th birthday, so we went out yesterday to shop for her birthday present. Me and my wife, who we will call Amber, decided that this year she could choose out what she wanted for presents, but limited to either 3 small presents or 1 bigger one. So, we took her and her 10-month-old brother, and we went to a wall-to-wall mart nearby, and then into the children's toys aisle. Being a kid, she wanted to inspect everything. She'd want to look at this item, I would take down an item that wanted, she'd inspect it, and I would ask if she wanted a bat for her birthday. She'd say yes, and I will put it temporarily in a shopping cart. Then we go down the aisle. She'd want to look at another item. Amber would take it off the shelf to look at, ask if she wanted a bat for her birthday. She'd said no, and it will go back onto the shelf. Customers went by, didn't think anything of it, not knowing that there was one we should be looking out for. Finally, we ended with 10 items that she wanted in the cart, all small items, so she should get 3 of these and told her to decide what she really wanted from this pile. She looked them over, decided on 2 right away, but she really wanted 2 of the other ones so badly, please, that we succumbed to her pleading and agreed that we'd get her 4. Little ankle biter has us wrapped around her neck. Little ankle biter has us wrapped around her finger. We told her that she'd get these presents later, and after surviving a round of pouting and big deer eyes, she gave in with the most heartbreaking okay only a kid can give. We went to put the items back to distract her. Amber asked if she wanted to get a drink from the in-store fast food company, and she took both her and our baby in his carrier towards the opposite corner of the store. Meanwhile, I was in charge of putting the discarded items back and was to secretly buy the 4 items, put them in the trunk of the car, and then meet up with them after. We compared notes afterwards, so what happened here was from Amber's view. When she went around a corner, she heard an "excuse me" from behind, and thought nothing of it, kept walking. Then seconds later, a bit louder "excuse me", closer and louder. She still thought nothing of it and turned the corner towards the restaurant. Then finally a tap on her shoulder. Turning, my wife found Karen instantly jumping into her face as soon as she turned. Karen then told her, "I've been waiting minutes to be helped because you were busy with that one guy, but now where are you taking his children?" Amber responded, "These are my children," which got the immediate response from Karen in a larger voice, "Then why do you have children while you work? You have daycare for things like that." And while Amber was trying to figure out what Karen was saying, Karen then moved her hand as if to go for the carrier my wife was holding. Instinctively, Amber pulled her hand back so that the Karen couldn't get a hold of it. That was enough to wake up our son, who started immediately crying. Amber then moved so she was between our daughter and this cranky woman, then pulled out her phone and quickly texted me. She was able to send off the one text before an enraged Karen swats it out of her hand, telling her, "Employees should not be on their phones while working." My wife tried to explain that she doesn't work here and never has worked here while trying to soothe our son. But Karen then said, "But I saw you take down that item for his daughter and put it back multiple times. Surely you work here." When Amber tried explaining that it was going to be her daughter's birthday soon, Karen just swished her hand aside, sniffed and said, "That's something you should do while not working, without your kids here. You think you can do that whenever?" And then she must have looked at my daughter because she immediately grabbed Amber's legs as if she was worried something was going to happen to her. Amber put a hand on my daughter's head, trying to comfort her somewhat, and tried to tell Karen sternly, "I just told you that I don't work here," only to have Karen scream, "Yes you do, I want to see your manager." Now our daughter is scared. At this point, Amber was about to unleash the one thing I dread ever since she became a mother. This inner beast, which is half bear, half thunderstorm, and all the motherhood that has a full fury when it comes to protecting our child. A little pissed off at this old woman who was carrying our daughter, and she started raising her voice too. Back to me. I've started returning the toys when I got the text from Amber. Looking at my phone, all I get is, "I need help." Leaving the cart, I ask where she is while working my way towards the central part of the store. No response, but I did hear my son wailing loudly. Fearing the worst things only a parent can think of, I run towards the crying with a loud voice yelling, and Amber's voice starting to get loud too. Turning to the corner to see Amber trying to talk to this Karen, who was screaming about getting her fired, trying to calm down a very scared little girl hiding behind her mother's legs and soothing a jolted baby who had been napping all this time. I asked Amber what happened and the Karen turned to address me. "Finally, a manager!" She half yelled, "You have to fire this worker of yours. She's such a bad employee that she cannot leave her children at home." I gave her this look of not understanding before catching the words employee. The company employees wear a well-known blue shirt, managers wear yellow vests, and all wear name tags. Not sure what they wear for pants because I've never thought to look. Now Amber was wearing a dark red long-sleeved shirt and blue jeans. No vest that has a logo, and no way this could be mistaken as an employee. I was wearing a green shirt with a certain football logo on it and blue jeans too. No name tags on either one of us either, so I have no idea how she got employee and manager out of what we were wearing. Chalk it up to carrying glasses, I guess. Then I made a mistake. I said, "She doesn't work here. She's my wife." Oh boy. She latched onto the "my wife" part as if she was a cross-examination prosecutor in court. "Your wife? You let her bring in your children to work? Are you so broke that you cannot afford a babysitter?" Could not get a word edgewise as she just below this tirade at us. Finally, security gets there in what seemed forever but likely only minutes. Karen sees them first and yells, "Security! I want both of them out of here and I want to talk to whoever owns this store now." The officers don't even look at us but at her and say, "Okay, let's take you to the office," and escort her away. She looked back, pointed at us and yelled, "What about them? Where the other officer?" Where the other officer just said, "We will come back and deal with them after you come to see the owner." Once they leave, I take the carrier crib away from Amber and she turns to pick up a very scared little girl, who immediately latches onto her as if she had no plans to ever let go. It takes us quite a time to calm down our son, and I end up finding a chair in the outdoor section. Amber says she's going to the bathroom with our daughter and takes off. I'm too busy worrying about my son to care about whoever passes until I hear, "Sir, sorry to bother you." I look up to see someone who is wearing a manager vest, and he says, "We apologize for another customer harassing you and your family like that. We now have her sitting in our office until police come and plan to charge her for harassment. Would you like to press charges as well?" I simply replied, "Yes please, I just want her gone." After all the procedures were done, Amber came back soon with our daughter in hand and looked less pissed than when she was before. I passed our son to her and my daughter climbed onto my legs and gave me a big hug. "Is the bad lady gone?" my daughter asked. I smiled and said, "Yeah, the bad lady Karen is gone." More hugs as my wife holds onto a now quiet and awake boy. Hey guys, just wanted to share the story of how I dealt with bullying around 16 years ago. On mobile, sorry for formatting, English is my second language. Little bit of backstory, I was a bit on the heavy side back then, and by a bit I mean I was the biggest guy in size in school. So I got bullied a lot, mostly verbal. The few times it got physical, I didn't retaliate. So almost everyone knows how much of a softie I am, which made me a prime target for the whole school. Also, the school was an all-exclusive boys' school. Onto the story, I was called a lot of names back then: choppy, fat, big, Lori. Anything big in size gets associated with my name. There is this one guy who I've known since the first grade. Let's call him Douchebag, who has been relentlessly bullying me since the first time he laid eyes on me. I'm kind of a nerd, just love computers and anything related to technology, which Douchebag didn't like because his IQ is mostly a double digit and he had trouble figuring things out. So at the start of 8th grade, we could take an extra class that taught us current technology and stuff. Douchebag stayed at the back of the class and got in a lot of trouble with the teacher because he was disruptive. The technology department is located on the first floor of the school. This will be important later. I had already complained a lot to the school administration about the bullying and even had my parents involved during the 4th grade. He only got a slap on the wrist because his father was a friend of the school VP. The VP had filed numerous reports about the douchebag, but had never taken any action. Oh, and the time my parents got involved, he said, "Boys will be boys. They are just having fun. They'll grow up and look back to those moments and have a laugh. Who knows, your kid might even lose weight just to impress them." My parents were helpless in this situation. So at the start of 8th grade, the bullying started. And this time it was mostly physical. Punching me on the arm, slapping the back of my head. My father had always taught me to turn the other cheek and always to respect others, even if they do something wrong to you. Exactly 1 month after the start of the school year, I went home with a black eye and fingernail scratches on my face. My father couldn't bear it anymore. That was the day my father gave me the best advice that he has given me. "Son, you have the size and strength to overcome many things. Next time anyone that even thinks of bullying you physically, screw him up bad. You'll never have any trouble with anyone if you stand up and fight back against them." I had been bottling up everything up until that day. My father's words unleashed that rage beautifully. I went back to school the next day and I was fuming. 8 years of pent-up rage, ready to freaking demolish the douchebag. My first class for that day was technology class. The teacher still hadn't come to class, so we were all just waiting outside. Douchebag saw me and started going on and on about my size. I didn't say anything. The moment he punched my arm was the breaking point. I simply grabbed onto his shoulder and said the words I was waiting to say all day long. "This is for all the years of you punching and calling me names." I freaking threw him over the railing from the first floor. He landed on the ground with a sickening thud onto the ground. What followed was the most girlish scream I have ever heard. The rest of the class had to pick up their jaws from the floor. The VP came running to his aid and looked up. He saw me smiling with the biggest grin I have ever had during those 8 years I spent in that hell. Parents were called and what followed was a crap show. The douchebag's father tried to punch me in the office in front of everyone. Principal, vice, 4 head teachers of the school, and the president of the school board who just happened to be on a visit to the school. My father got in front of him and laid a nice uppercut which dislocated his jaw. Police were called and he was arrested for trying to assault a minor. The vice principal was fired because he had never taken any action against the douchebag's actions, even though he knew the whole story. The douchebag had a broken shoulder and broken kneecap which stopped him from playing soccer, which he loved. After the whole fiasco was sorted out, my father gave me some new advice. Just punch their lights out. Don't throw them from balconies. I never had any more troubles with bullies. They were scared of me. My next goal was to protect the other kids who were getting bullied. If I saw anyone bullying anybody, I would stand next to the kid and ask what's the problem. they would always apologize and leave. I could proudly say that I solved the bullying problem in our school barehanded. Edit. To answer the question for the location, I'm from an Asian country. As for the update about what happened to the douchebag, well, his father transferred him to a new school. Unfortunately, we live in a small country, so word got out of what really happened to him, and his new friends started bullying him for that. Last I heard, he's currently serving a sentence for a drug-related crime and theft. Many years ago, before Al Gore invented the World Wide Web, I was a broke student who wrenched on cars on a side to make ends meet. Background: one year as classes ended for the summer, I started noticing that the cars I worked on would leave with significantly less fuel than they arrived with. Someone was siphoning gas from them. They were smart enough to leave my car alone, but they would sometimes hit the same car multiple times if it sat there long enough. I was trying to work out a way to catch the thief without sitting up all night, but wasn't having much luck. Inspiration. As luck would have it, a prank at work provided the inspiration needed. There were some devices being scrapped that had these thick rubber bladders with a threaded connector molded right into one end. It was my job to break these machines down to salvage some valuable spares and chuck the rest into the scrap bin. A co-worker thought it would be funny to connect one of those bladders to an air hose and inflate it. Well, it inflated, but it didn't blow up like a balloon as he expected. It blew up a bit, then popped with a tremendous bang. It sounded like a bomb went off. I had hearing protection on. It was a good 75 feet away and I still just about soiled myself. It sounded like a 12-gauge shotgun from hell. He nearly got fired over it, but he had given me an idea. The execution. I snagged several of those bladders along with a dumb valve off one of the scrap machines with the boss's blessing. I then contacted a buddy who had recently had me look at his sister's 74 Ford with a dying engine. The thing was burning so much oil, it was a traffic hazard. She still had it. Back then, scrap cars were next to worthless. Often the salvage yard wouldn't even come pick them up for free if you weren't close. Our local yard will give you $25 if you drove them in, or maybe trade you a few parts for a whole car. History lesson over. I offered to dispose of the car and soon found myself the proud owner of a car with 3 tires and a grave. I got a buddy involved and we set to work. We removed the gas tank. We put my big air tank in the trunk. Then I rigged the dumb valve to the filler cap door with a bit of fishing line. We drilled holes right through the body. It was set so that when someone opened the filler cap door, the dumb valve would let air from the tank flow into the bladder, which was underneath the car. We tested it and after a bit of tweaking, it will pop one of those bladders pretty quickly. We set our trap and I drove it to my place with a now orphaned fuel line routed into a small boat can in the trunk. I parked it and waited. The payoff. As with most things like this, it didn't work right away. I'd had to open the trunk and top the air tank off a couple times due to a slow leak. Finally, one night about a week later, I was woken from a sound sleep. Boom. It took me a second to realize what was happening, but then I frantically ran outside. Whoever it was had fled the scene in record time. The only evidence of their presence was an open filler cap door, air hissing from under the Ford, and a very nice metal gas can with a length of rubber hose laying nearby. I've always hoped that the thief thought they had been narrowly missed with a shotgun, but I'll never know. I just know that the mysterious fuel disappearances stopped. By the way, I still have that gas can. I don't even use it anymore, and the spout is broken off, but I keep it on a shelf in my shop as a trophy. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.